Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and iOS 27 public beta is finally here, which is the same as developer beta 3 that was released a week ago. Apple finally delivered this year after years of complaints, bringing refinements, options, features, and more. Apple also delivered on better performance and smoothness, but it's still an early beta with issues here and there. But Apple does continue focusing on bug fixes, stability, and improvements in iOS 27, and it's looking very good. In this video, we'll talk about the latest Apple news, many new features, and the overall experience. Not just my experience, but your experience based off the YouTube community poll on the post page, where at the time of this video, there's over 14,000 votes and 181 comments. I've gone over all the comments to determine what the update is like for most of us, so be sure to stick around toward the end of the video where I'll read some of your comments as well. Apple's yearly back-to-school sale is now available in the United States. We can see it on apple.com. And you'll see it says college sorted. It says get a gift card from $100 to $150 when you buy a Mac or iPad with education savings. So if you're a teacher or educator, you can actually get these deals right now. So that's available now. It's available in the USA, Canada, and Mexico currently, and it goes through August 27th. Those sticking with iPhone continue to grow according to CIRP, who's been tracking those who switch from Android to iPhone for years. According to CIRP, 3% more switched this year from Android to iPhone from the same point in time last year. They also claim overall loyalty of iPhone users is up 87% based on their latest survey. So it seems with the iPhone 17 model, they continue to sell very well, and of course iOS 27 may be a big reason for that as well. Now, one bad piece of news is Apple just increased the price of Apple Music to $11.99, which is now $1 more than before, and if you use Apple One with a family plan, it now costs $2 more per month. There's a couple different changes throughout, but this is due to rising licensing fees for artists according to Apple. Apple also just increased the price of iCloud Plus in some more countries by up to over 50% in the countries of Egypt, Indonesia, Japan, Nigeria, New Zealand, the Philippines, Turkey, and Vietnam. You can see it here where they bumped the price up. They don't say why they did it. They just announced the price increase, and you can see all of that here. And I'll link this in the description below so you can see if you're affected in one of those countries. Lastly, Apple has raised prices in Japan as much as 11% on iPhones. MacRumors posted a chart with the price increases you can see here, and again, depending on the phone, it's up to over 11% or so. So this is due to the rising RAM prices, and we saw price increases last month already. Now, Apple Intelligence should finally be launching in China soon. According to Reuters this past week, the China Cyberspace Administration registered Apple Intelligence this week, which now allows it to be cleared for use in China. We still don't have a specific release date yet for Apple Intelligence to go live in China, though, so whether that's with iOS 26.6 or iOS 27, we just don't know yet. New emoji release every year, and the next set of emoji coming later this year was shared with 9to5Mac. Now, not all are completely new. However, there's some updated ones as well, but you can see a couple different things such as an eraser here, a lighthouse, a cracked face, and a couple others here as well. So this is due to the Unicode Consortium. They actually determine the next emoji, and then of course Apple, Microsoft, Google with Android, then follow up and then add those to their operating system. So we could see those later this year or sometime next year. When it comes to new features, there's a new feature worth checking out in Safari. Now within Safari, if we go to our options and go to Notify Me, this feature isn't new, but we can now have additional options. So you'll see it currently says check daily. It's also giving suggestions here, maybe for price drops. And then we can go to edit. And instead of daily, we can have it check hourly. This is new as of this week. Apple must have pushed it on the server side, and you can now have it check hourly instead of daily or whatever else you set it to. So if you want to utilize that feature, again, it's a little bit more helpful now. Now, when trying to send money to someone, iOS may warn you if they think it could be a scam. Thanks to Dakota for sending this in. You'll see here's the actual warning where it says warning, possible scam, and then it gives the information as to why it believes that it could be a scam, and then you can acknowledge and continue or cancel it altogether. There's a new setting for Mail that makes it a little bit more useful. If we go into our settings, go to Mail, then scroll down to where we have Remind Me messages, switch this over to Move to Remind Me, and now when you go into your Mail app and you switch this over to Remind Me, once you select a reminder, maybe tomorrow, it will then disappear from your inbox and only come back once it's time to remind you. So that's something you can enable that may make it a little bit better, clean up your inbox more, and seems like a nice little feature, so it's something I'll keep enabled. Also in iOS 26.6 Beta 5, found by Bones on X, there's a new message that may pop up if iOS detects a malicious message. You'll have some options here where Apple can investigate it, or you can just tap Not Now, but it will warn you, or you can share it if you want to with Apple. So that's something that's new, again, with iOS 26.6 there. Similar to what we have on iOS 27 with the scam alert when you're trying to send money. When it comes to app updates this week, Apple released Madden NFL 27 on the App Store. You'll see here where it's in Apple Arcade. So it's the Arcade Edition, and it says joining NFL Retro Bowl 27 and Retro Bowl College Plus. And again, you can see that on Apple Arcade. WhatsApp has now added support for mic modes. So this is something that you may or may not see yet, but mic modes, when you're on a phone call, you can then go in and change your modes and use voice cancellation or noise isolation and really help with the overall phone call, especially if you're in a noisy environment. Also, WhatsApp is working on back-end alternatives to iCloud. So instead of backing it up in iCloud, they could give you additional options so you could save your data and then recover it if you need to restore or just get it a little bit later. When it comes to releases this week, Apple pushed out a new AirPods beta firmware update. This is the public beta this time around. It's actually the same as the third beta for developers. And if we scroll to the bottom here in our AirPods menu, you'll see the version is 9A314B, as well as the same for the case version. Again, it's the same as the developer update, and then of course gives you access to the latest features on your AirPods, the new adaptive menu, along with your equalizer that you can customize and everything else that's new. When it comes to releases this week, we could see iOS 27 Beta 4 as soon as Monday. However, we're a little bit different this year where we didn't have a beta re-release. Typically, we'll have a re-release, then the public beta. This year, we didn't have that, so maybe we'll see Beta 4 as soon as Monday or Tuesday. However, we could have to wait another week. We just don't know at this point. However, I do expect iOS 26.6 RC as soon as Monday, and then maybe a public release the following Monday for iOS 26.6. Of course, we'll have iOS 27 betas and public betas throughout August, and then of course into mid-September we'll have the public release with iOS 27 releasing around the time of the iPhone 18 models. And speaking of the iPhone 18 models, iPhone 18 Pro are currently being manufactured, and the biggest change could be the battery. I talked about this last week, where we expect maybe up to a 5,500 milliamp hour battery. However, Apple is also supposedly manufacturing a folding device now, with many of its components already in production. So this year, we're not really sure exactly what's going to be new with the iPhone 18 other than a larger battery, maybe some display upgrades and camera, but we are looking forward to a folding phone. I'm curious which one you're looking most forward to. If they do release a folding phone, would you pick that up, or are you going to stick with the iPhone 18 models? When it comes to the overall experience, let's start with AirPods Pro 3. So far, they've been pretty good, but again, I've had some disconnects this past week. So when I'm using it with the Mac, sometimes it jumps off. I'm using it with macOS 26, though, the latest version, so it may be hit or miss there. However, when I use it with my iPhone, it seems to be pretty flawless. So I used it while mowing the lawn, no real issues, great noise cancellation, and it seems to be working well. When it comes to iOS 27 Beta 3 and the overall experience, again, Beta 3 is the same as the public beta. Well, there's a couple things worth mentioning. The physical volume controls now work properly. They did on Beta 3. The alarm bug is resolved, so many people are saying that the bug they had with the alarms when they had one set where they weren't sounding is now working properly. Also, if you're using shortcuts, those using automation scripts are now saying that they're working properly, so that's great news. Also, the UI is quite smooth for the most part, or much more so compared to iOS 26 at least. There's still some bugs here and there though. Also, iCloud sync issues for iMessage seem to have been fixed, and also RAM management seems to be much better for many. Now, I'm not really noticing too much of a difference there myself, but many people are saying that it's better. Also, the Settings app problem is still there, so sometimes it doesn't open for some people. Thankfully, I haven't run into this, but many people say it doesn't work. You have to close out of it, go back in, and then it works properly. Also, some are saying that they have audio to haptic sync delays, so maybe you're listening to music or tapping on something, the haptic feedback is a little bit delayed. The Siri setup notification keeps popping up for many. I'm not seeing that, thankfully. It kind of went away on its own, but many people see that every single day. You go back in, fill it out, and then it returns the next day. The keyboard is still laggy for some. The wallpaper bug is still there. So if we pull down the notification slider there, swipe back up, it desaturates a little bit. Now it depends on the wallpaper. Sometimes it's more severe than others. It seemed like it was fixed completely with Beta 1 and Beta 2, but it returned with Beta 3. Some say the screen doesn't wake properly, so if you wake it up quickly, you'll see I can wake it up pretty quickly. I don't really have an issue here, but some are saying it's quite laggy there. Also, dictation can be hit or miss for some. Definitely that's an issue, and the enhanced dictation doesn't seem to be here with this particular beta. So again, that was found under General and then Keyboard. So if we go down to Keyboard, there was a dictation option for an enhanced dictation on the iPhone 17 Pro models. That's not here currently, but I do have dictation enabled. But again, it doesn't seem like it's worse for me on this one, but some people say it's much worse. Some apps are crashing. That's to be expected with a beta, as they haven't updated the apps yet and won't be able to typically until about September. Also, battery drain is quite bad when it's indexing, and the phone is quite warm when it's doing that. This one is still indexing on and off. You'll see here it now gives a percentage for many, optimizing search and Siri, so that's great. And then you can learn more about it, but again, it's at 83% and it's taking some time. So again, it can be a little bit laggy until that completes. Then it seems like it improves quite a bit for some. When it comes to iOS 26.6 Beta 5, many people have said that it actually improves battery life quite a bit. It improves heat and thermals. It's not really getting warm at all. We'll test that in a moment. It also fixes CarPlay disconnect issues, where CarPlay is definitely still an issue in iOS 27 for me. Not as bad as it was in iOS 26, but still there. And also, it generally seems to be fast and smooth. It does slow down after some time for some people, but on the newest phones, it generally is pretty fast. With iOS 26.5.2, or the older versions, of course, they still lag quite a bit. So it's not great. Many people are looking forward to iOS 26.6 and iOS 27. iOS 26.5.2 has battery drain, overheating, CarPlay issues, AirPod issues, lag, and more. So hopefully Apple really fixes this with 26.6. Of course, there's still some holdouts with iOS 18. That's to be expected. Many people just want a stable and smooth experience. And of course, there's iOS 18 if you haven't upgraded for that. So some people are still hesitant to upgrade, and I think that's fine if you want to make sure that everything's working proper. Hopefully, iOS 27 definitely fixes that by the time it's released. Now, when it comes to overall heat and thermals, it's staying nice and cool once it's done indexing. So right now, my iPhone is quite cool. Of course, it may not be as good as iOS 26.6 that way, but let's go ahead and test it out with both devices being the same. We'll run benchmarks and see how they do. With iOS 27 Beta 3, we'll take a look at the hottest area here. We're right around 36.5 to 6 degrees Celsius. And on iOS 26.6, we're right around 34.5 degrees Celsius. So a little bit cooler here, and that's what we would expect. Benchmarks completed, and they're a little bit lower than I would expect, but well within the margin of error. You'll see iOS 26.6 Beta 5 on the left, iOS 27 Beta 3 on the right, where we have 3,782 for single core, 9,671 for multi-core. The highest we've seen is over 10,000 for multi-core. Again, if you run this a few times in a row, typically it will bump up to that. When it comes to overall battery life, let's first take a look at iOS 26.6 Beta 5. Thanks to Cameron for sending this in. This is on an iPhone 17 Pro Max. You'll see he had 5 hours and 30 minutes of screen active time, 1 hour and 35 minutes of screen idle time, and used 57% of the battery. So it's doing pretty good overall. Probably will get him about 10 hours of screen on time or close to it. When it comes to iOS 27 Beta 3, I've been running it full time on the iPhone 17 Pro Max. So if we go back to my battery health, you'll see I'm at 100% capacity with 136 cycles. And you'll see here, Coconut battery currently cannot read all of the information. So many people have asked, why don't I show that more? And that's why. Currently, Apple isn't allowing it in iOS 27. As far as my overall battery life, let's take a look. Under usage, yesterday I only had 2 hours and 49 minutes of screen active time, 59 minutes of screen idle time using 65% of the battery. Wednesday was much better, or rather Tuesday, with almost 4 hours using 82%. This isn't great for me. Sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's almost 6 hours or 8 hours getting me through the day. But again, some of those numbers may be off a little bit. However, everything does seem to be smooth, whether that's on newer or older devices. You'll see ProMotion is nice and smooth and fast. It seems like it's plenty fast, especially on older devices as well. No real complaints there. Opening apps, going in and out, loading different apps, no real issues there. If you're wondering if you should install iOS 27 Public Beta or Beta 3, typically what I say is if you have to ask, at this point you should probably wait if you're concerned about bugs or issues. If you have an extra device laying around, or you don't mind having bugs or issues, or don't mind downgrading using a computer and you have a backup, then it's completely fine. Otherwise, though, I probably wouldn't recommend it until at least Public Beta 2 or Public Beta 3 for most people that aren't already on it. When it comes to the overall storage, let's go ahead and take a look. If we scroll to the bottom, again, iOS 26.6 Beta 5 on the left, 27 Beta 3 on the right, or Public Beta 1. iOS definitely takes up more storage, with iOS 27 at 16.13 gigabytes compared to 14.44, and Apple Intelligence is more than double. So definitely it takes up more storage. It doesn't really bother me though, as I have plenty, but if you have a phone with less storage, that may be a concern. You'll see here system data goes up and down as needed. I've seen it hit 60 gigabytes and then come back down, so no real issues there. When it comes to the overall experience and what you had to say, let's take a look at some of your comments. Scorpion Z1 said, 17 Pro Max, indexing did not show the percentage, but it did finish after a day. Battery has been better, apps are faster, slight heat when charging. AndyMate 2006 said, I tried iOS 27 Beta 3, but I found it extremely buggy. The CarPlay kept disconnecting and reconnecting repeatedly, apps crashed, and found going into anything would result in something buggy, so I restored my backup to what I had previously, iOS 26.5.2. Going to wait for the next beta. Alex27951 said, Hi, I'm on iOS 27 Beta 3 on my iPhone 16 Pro Max, no issues at all, and no overheating as well. Even on my iPad Pro M4, it runs fast. Man the Matt said, I'm on an iPhone 12 mini with iOS 27 Dev Beta 3. It feels like running a slightly faster version of iOS 26. The only issue I have currently is my phone keeps overheating. Michael Oliver 66 said, Hi, iOS 27 Beta 3 running on my 16 Pro Max. Very stable beta, no major bugs I've been aware of. Phone feels noticeably smoother, battery is draining a bit faster, but nothing major. Love the new Siri AI. DM Tech Pro 08 said, I have been testing iOS developer updates since iOS 12. I can confidently say that iOS 27 has been the most stable beta I have ever tested, even from the very first. In fact, I would even go as far as saying if they release this now as a production ready, they could get away with it. I'm on the third developer beta on iPhone 16 Pro Max, and I'm having performance on par with iOS 26.5. Even the alarm bug I had for most of iOS 26 has been fixed in this beta. The only bug I can say I have experienced is a slight synchronization issue either when I get a notification, type with the keyboard, or activate Siri. Sometimes there is a slight delay with the sounds play about half a second after the haptic. That's just a minor glitch though, not a major hindrance to the user experience. I don't think many people would bat an eyelid about something as small as that. I've reported it nonetheless. To Apple, keep smashing it with these updates. To you, keep the incredible videos going. Teach Pro 1234 said, I'm on iOS 27 public beta on my iPhone 16e. The only issue that I have is the settings bug, but the performance is better than iOS 26, but the battery life is decent. But overall, it's a good update. Good job, Apple. Paul227U1P said, I usually wait for the RC, but this time around, because of reports of how stable iOS 27 and iPadOS 27 are, I've installed the public betas on my iPhone 17 Pro Max and iPad Air M3. So far, I've not had any issues and everything appears to be running smoothly, and I dare say it's more stable than iOS 26.5.2. So far, I'm very impressed. The rumors of the Snow Leopard release appear to be spot on. watchOS 27 is also working well on my Apple Watch Ultra 3. I'm liking the improved Siri 2, so much more useful. Matt Rayner 0611 said, I'm on iOS 26.6 Public Beta 5 and everything is running smoothly. Battery life seems much improved from iOS 26.5.2 on my iPhone 16 Pro. No CarPlay issues and I don't see any micro stuttering. Great update. Looking forward to iOS 27. Steven Stokes 7743 said, iPhone 17 Pro, I decided to become a beta tester for the first time with iOS 27. I am so happy I did. I really love the new Siri and the other AI features. All my apps work well so far. The interface is smooth and fast. The only problem so far was continually being asked to set up Talk to Siri, which I did 5 times. I actually asked Siri about this. It suggested that I disable Siri, restart the phone, then re-enable Siri and set it up again. So far, so good. My battery has been a little bit better, I think, and my phone is not particularly hot. I reckon Apple should skip 26.6 and release this a few weeks earlier. Now with iOS 26.5.2, of course, many people are just waiting for the next update. iOS 26.6 is almost here and seems to fix many of the issues people have had for quite some time. I don't expect it to be perfect, but I do expect it to be much better and be a stopgap between now and then iOS 27. Of course, iOS 27, like I mentioned earlier, Apple seems to have delivered quite a bit with this update. Things are smooth. Apps are fast, much faster than before, and Liquid Glass is customizable. They've been listening to the volume control issues people have been asking for, and much more. So this is one of the best updates we've seen in years, and definitely something I'm looking forward to as far as the beta's moving on and then a public release. So that's everything with iOS 27 Public Beta 1, Developer Beta 3, iOS 26.6 Beta 5, and iOS 26.5.2. Hopefully we see Beta 2 this week for the public beta or Beta 4 with iOS 27. And then, of course, we'll see a public release of iOS 26.6 in just a couple weeks. Let me know what you're looking most forward to in the comments below. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already, though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.